Sanity of God. At some point, you will identify yourself as the sanity of God. Sanity, untouched by the delusional idea that you could be separate and that you could die. In the sanity of truth, there's nothing to attach to as a personal identity. And it is the personal identity that holds everyone hostage in the belief of separation. There are many compromises that occur within the belief of separation. Compromises of, I'll just put the truth aside because I have a pattern and a rhythm that I don't want to upset the apple cart. I used to use that term, upset the apple cart, in the recognition of healing, that with every healing there was an upset of the apple cart. The apple cart turned over and all of the pieces and parts spilled out. And in that upset of the apple cart, I had the opportunity to look at truth more clearly because my pieces weren't in place. My strategies weren't in alignment. My knowing was shaken up. Shaken up in a deep enough way that I couldn't put anything back together quick enough to not be aware that I was at the mercy of either truth or the lies that I had believed in. And in the grace of God, every time the apple cart was upset, it was the greatest blessing. The apple cart didn't actually have to be upset, but because of the extraordinary defense system that everyone carries, it usually ends up in the apple cart being upset. The beauty of it is that once you appreciate the upset of the apple cart, you can take such a full opportunity to heal as deeply as possible while it's torn apart. What is it that's torn apart is truly only the facade of your knowing, your ideas that you've got something figured out. When the apple cart is upset, your figuring out doesn't function. And with purpose, it doesn't function. You don't have your ducks in a row, so you have to rely on the power of the divine. We are, in our willingness, called to trust in the power of the divine in every moment. But because, again, of the pervasiveness of the ego and the resistance to questioning what is real and what is unreal, because of that resistance, the more that you accept the apple cart being turned over as a blessing, the more it can be used for deep healing. When you have something upside down, in a sense, it could be that you get fired or that you break a bone or have teeth for things or whatever. The problem is not the problem. The problem is the form, or at least the beginnings of a tearing. Welcome it. Welcome it every day. Because every day, the Spirit of love is answering the call of all prayers. When your prayer is, help me to recognize the truth within, help me to see what's real, help me to learn to communicate with the divine, help me to see things through peace and harmony and joy, help me to see the truth of everything, and help me to expose the lies that run with fear, that have to be questioned and brought to the light. In the world of illusion, it's the intention is to get up in the morning and have all results be as you want them to be by your decision. In the world, you believe that your understanding of good and bad is sufficient to make that decision about outcomes. And it takes sometimes a great while to get the connection that nothing is actually healing because you keep going in the same circle. You want the outcome of every situation to be as you think it should be. And in that, there's no movement into healing. You're just repeating the same, I like this, I don't like this is how I want it to be, this is... What if you are working in some capacity and there is some kind of upset in the company and you're kind of involved in it, that it's kind of a whole office is upset? Do you go home and worry about that upset? Do you spend time thinking about how you're going to solve the upset? How you're going to protect yourself in that upset? How you're going to try to convince others that it's not your fault? All of that is a sense of protection and a sense of believing that there is something to fear. In that hard work that is trying to understand and find safety is the intrinsic belief that you can be harmed, that you can be really hurt, lose your job, be without, the belief in scarcity, the belief in danger of others, that others have power and you don't have power. All of those things come to the surface for healing. And if you can really look at the situation and realize that each situation is the divine orchestration of the possibility of healing, of finally letting go of identities and ideas about yourself that are completely untrue. What would happen if you went to that same job and that same turmoil or perception of turmoil, and you came with trust in your heart that God is leading the way, that you've put the situation into the hands of God? You are not looking for a good or a fearful outcome. You are not trying to figure out the outcome. You are stepping back and allowing the grace of God to have the situation, to heal the situation, and you don't know what that looks like. It may be that to heal the situation or to bring healing is possibly to lose your job. And then what does that mean? You lose your job. Is that the end? Is that the bottom line that says I'm really in danger now? God's will for you is peace and joy. And every situation is the opportunity of healing. Would you trade the safety of that job for the healing as the exchange? That the healing that you would open to would be that you felt the total comfort of safety in the power of God, and that you are no longer attached and addicted to the job as the thing that keeps you safe. That your safety cannot come from a job, that your safety cannot come from a body, that your safety cannot come from any kind of relationship, and that your healing is in the surrender of the fear and the belief that you can be without. That God would leave you without a job, that God would leave you struggling. That's the belief that is there to be healed. The belief in scarcity is there to be healed. The belief that there is an authority outside the truth of God that you give the power to. That could be a boss, that could be your landlord, it doesn't matter. It could be the IRS. But your fear of the world, the fear of authority within the world, is holding you hostage if you're afraid of losing. If you're afraid of losing and being without, there is a tension that runs through your whole system that holds you in tension. You can't relax because of the fear that you've carried through probably lifetimes. Now is the time of accepting the power of healing, the power of truth, the reality that you cannot be hurt. You cannot be without God. It isn't God's will for you to suffer, not in any way. So how you perceive something and how you think an outcome should be is giving the power to the form itself, when the power is in love itself. It's in your intention, it's in your peace, it's in your acceptance of truth, it's in the reality of God and the acceptance of that reality. When someone is going through a sense of turmoil in there, the form of shifted and moved out of that form. Encourage the welcoming of it. Encourage that this is a transformational moment. And yes, their life may not be the same structure as it was in the past, because that structure was complete. That structure was being called to be let go of. Can you hear? Can you listen to the calling of the divine? Or every time it starts to fall apart, you freak out, and you do everything to put it back together, including as much tension as possible and as much worry as possible, thinking that as you worry enough, if you have enough tension, you'll have paid your dues, and then God will leave you alone and you can go back to your old habits. But God is love, and God hears the Spirit's call to return to remembering. Your divine spirit is whole and complete, but you're not in the remembering because you've given your allegiance to the knowing, the good, the bad. I like this, I don't like this. This is how it should be. This is the result I want. Take that leap of faith. Take the leap of faith that your prayer is, I don't know how this should look. I don't know what the result should be in form, but God's will is peace and harmony. And I am willing to see everything through peace and harmony. I'm willing to give up the idea of things being as I think they should be. I'm no longer willing to be the saboteur of the everyday remembering of God. I just thought that the word saboteur. Imagine that somebody asks you, oh, what is it that you do? I'm a saboteur. It's a full-time job. It would make you at least stop and pause and look and see, where am I sabotaging? And why? Why do I see it as that it's effective when it never has been effective? Finding that place of honesty and coming back to accepting that you are the sanity of God, truly, and you can let go of the insanity as you recognize the insanity for what it is. Insanity, pain and suffering. It isn't God's will, and it isn't the truth. I found a hymn that was the first hymn that I learned. It calls you to embrace the deeper life, the deeper journey, the deeper truth. I am the shine of sun, I am the shine of moon, I give the shine to stars because they all follow me. I am the shine of sea, I live in the wind, shine in the forest because it belongs to me. I remember it being very much like a child's song, and yet in the innocence of the child, to truly accept that you are the shine of the sun, the shine of the moon. You can't not be. You give the shine to the stars because all the stars follow you, because you are the light of God. You may not notice that the stars are following you because you're not paying attention to the stars. You're thinking about your strategy for the next day of wanting it to be good or as you think it should be. But in the meantime, you are the shine of the sea. You live in the wind, shine in the forest, because it belongs to you. This is a call for expansion. The little world of scarcity, the little world of good and bad, the little world of likes and dislikes, where you spend time deciding who you like and who you don't like, and who agrees with you and who doesn't agree with you, and what you assess as right or wrong. And to truly surrender that, because you're letting go. You're opening, you're saying, yes, I want to be expanded into the reality of the true nature of creation. That's where you belong. That's where your home is. Out of the insane mind of the ego and into the sane mind of love itself. The Holy Spirit is the redemptive dove, which enters giving peace to everyone. The Holy Spirit is the wise element of the divine. It brings the joy, and it is the teacher. It goes into every element of the universe, liberating in all the awareness of truth and the release of all lies. My divine Holy Spirit, you are my protection, my safety of truth. Please help me love with all of my heart. The awareness is the knowledge. It comes to redeem us from the insanity of the past. Divine Holy Spirit, Holy Trinity of love. This is where we all exist, in the center of the truth of love. O Espírito Santo, eu pomba redentora, que voa, voa, dando paz em mais pessoas. O Espírito Santo, é a pomba sabedora, traze alegria, ela é a professora. Meu divino Espírito Santo, foi seus minhos proteção, mantém o amor sempre no meu coração. Pai, Filho e Espírito Santo, são a Santa Trinidade, e onde encerra o segredo da verdade. If your guides are always with you, always available, are you speaking to them? Are you listening to them? Or do you make them wait in the closet until you're done with your day and then pull them out for a prayer or two, but you don't want your day changed? With every element of your day that you choose fear, Maybe you don't realize you're choosing fear, but when you choose to not choose peace, you're choosing fear. When you believe that you know the outcome that you want to be out of habit, that's fear. And God is calling you, Spirit is calling you to let Spirit out of the closet and let Spirit walk with you in your day as you surrender. Let it all be for the healing truth of your existence. You don't have to act crazy anymore. Sometimes a poem, a teaching jumps out and says, right here. And that is the truth of you don't have to act crazy anymore, because again, the insanity haunts you. It haunts you and holds you in a delusional state. And you don't have to act crazy anymore. We all know that you were good at that. Now retire, my love. From all that hard work that you do of bringing pain to your sweet eyes and heart, look in a clear mountain mirror. See the beautiful ancient warrior and the divine elements that you have always carried within, that infused this universe with sacred life so long ago. That is your essence. And join you eternally with all existence, with God. If someone is saying to you and giving you the permission, you don't have to act crazy anymore, why would that be so essential, to listen to that voice of love that says, you don't have to act crazy anymore? It's like being on a roller coaster or a merry-go-round. You keep waiting for it to stop so that you can regroup, but it doesn't stop. You have to, while you're on the merry-go-round, make the choice to grab the gold ring of truth. It's always there waiting for you. It's always there waiting for you to change your mind, to choose again, and to not be in the crazy anymore. Now, the crazy isn't someone necessarily, quote unquote, losing it, or screaming, or crying hysterically, or kicking doors in, even though that can be part of it. It can look calm on the outside, can look like you know what you're doing on the outside, because, well, you don't have to act crazy anymore, but we all know that you were good at that, because everybody has been good at that, at having a false identity projected outward, while inwardly there is caution, disturbance, fear of all kinds, anger, resentment, proving, winning, all of it mushing around. Now retire. Retire from that battleground, because it isn't the truth. Retire from all the hard work you do of bringing pain to your sweet eyes and heart, with every thought that you have that begins with the word I. I think, I know, I decided, I figured out, I'm deciding. All of it is your signal that you're believing that you are on your own and making decisions for yourself that are helpful. But they're the same vicious cycle. Look in a clear mountain mirror and see the beautiful ancient warrior and the divine elements you always carry inside. An ancient warrior, not the kind of warrior that picks up a sword and battles or is pissed off at somebody else or judging somebody else or offended by somebody else's words, or you wanted to do something differently and they didn't want to do it, and that kind of warrior. It isn't a warrior that needs to battle. It's the warrior of the light that holds the truth from moment to moment and trusts in the power that only comes from the divine. You are the miracle worker. What does that mean, to be a miracle worker? It means that you bring your willingness to correct your mind in every situation, and then the miracle can come through because you're ready for that correction. You're ready to see it differently. You're ready for the power of truth to change your mind. Don't be fooled by the insistence of the ego that keeps saying, I've got this, I know what I'm doing. I know how to control things. Well, the more that you know how to control things, the louder the cry for help needs to be. The idea of controlling your life, when you would have to control the whole universe in order to have it your way, and that's not even, you can't control your own life. It's not possible. Where does disappointment come from? Where does upset come from? Where does surprise come from? Where does the nervousness of the unknown, where does that come from? It comes from the belief that what you keep repeating is real and that that's your only choice. And just as with so many, most of us for a while would rather settle for the known than to have anything change. We want to live with the illusion of keeping things the same, that because we don't want to take that leap into the unknown. And we're so afraid of it that we keep doing the same thing again and again. Everybody's done it. Everybody has walked that way. But it's a glorious, glorious day. It's a glorious moment in your life when you finally say, enough, enough of this. I'm serious. I am not wanting to be in charge anymore. I am wanting to be led. I want to rest as I'm being led, where I don't have to be in charge of anything because there's nothing to be in charge of, and God is leading the way. Truly. You don't have to be crazy anymore. I wrote a teaching. Every lifetime you have believed that if you can keep track of every situation and its outcome, in quotes, you would be safe. You built a fortress of knowing and keeping statistics about everything. Statistics, as if They mean something. Keeping statistics about everything, the seasons, being able to say, last year this happened at this time. Last year on this day, it was blah, blah degrees. It has snowed 3.25 times in the last 5 years. Those are my statistics. The hottest day was in July, etc., etc. The last time you came over, you stayed 3 hours, etc., etc., etc. What is it to know that last time somebody came over, how long they stayed? That evidence is going to keep you safe. When all of creation is saying, let go. Let go and step away from the illusion that time exists, that there is death, that it has meaning, that you could lose connection with someone, that you would be different than someone else instead of being in that divine equality of love, and that there is no scarcity. And that scarcity is what touches everything and makes fear out of everything. When you believe that in the past you were without, and almost everybody carries this, the belief that you were without, that you see the past as through the lens of scarcity, that you were ashamed of the scarcity, that you were bitter about the scarcity, that you were very fearful about the scarcity, that it was going to go with you wherever you went. And it does, because it's in the mind. And that it's real, that the scarcity is your enemy, that it's the battleground. And all the while, the truth of love is calling you to truly surrender this belief in scarcity, because it has no truth to it. It's self-made. It's an agreement throughout humanity, truly. The scarcity of land, the scarcity of water, the scarcity of time, the scarcity of ownership, the scarcity of education, the scarcity of your mental capacity, the scarcity of how you look one way or the other, the scarcity of education, the scarcity of friendships, the scarcity of admiration. All of it is the belief in scarcity, and none of it is real. But it's used to hold you as a prisoner of a false identity. How do you step away from the belief in scarcity? First, the past has to be forgiven for what you believed it was. To set free every beloved that you walked with in the past, to see them through the compassion and the abundance of God's love that they truly are part of. That they're innocent, that you were innocent, that nothing happened to change the truth of your magnificent, perfect self, and that you have everything. That is the journey. It's the release of the belief of being a physical limitation. A physical limitation. What is a physical limitation? How you look, how you function, how you think, how you react. Give it all to God. Surrender it all and be emptied of all the false identity that you've carried, that you no longer have to be chained to these false identities and live with them, because they really have no truth to them. None at all. You don't have to act crazy anymore. You're being called to let go of the pretense of being uncrazy while underneath you truly believe you are crazy. Neither one is true. You are the light of God, and you are not any identity of separation. Imagine that every beloved who has reincarnated, has incarnated into maybe your family agreement, because that's what it is. Every family has an agreement. Everybody plays a role. And when you're in that role, you're supposed to fulfill that role. You're supposed to behave as the agreement was made. So it can include being the oldest, the youngest, the middle one, of healing for all that made up identity, for each beloved that you walked with. And who are they? Who are these beloveds? Do you speak to their spirit and ask to see and meet their divine spirit? Their divine spirit is in total perfection. They don't know that, not necessarily, but you're the one who is capable of letting go of the crazy and wanting to meet the truth of that spirit. If you don't want to meet the truth of that spirit, of each beloved who came into identity with an agreement, if you don't want to meet the truth of them, you don't want their healing. You want them to stay as they are with their identity so that you can refer back to them and keep your identity. This is where love really comes in, because to learn to love is to learn to open that doorway for each beloved, to want to truly see the reality of them rather than the story you made up about them and that they've agreed with. But it's time to let it go. It's time to only accept the truth, only accept the reality of peace. And if you're not at peace all the way through, you're making something up. And it's not a condemnation. It's a reminder that you have the divine choice to choose love instead of the past. Truly to accept divine love instead of the past, and bring it as the gift to every beloved. What a blessing to have that honor, that calling to be the one who is called to bring healing to all those that were suffering in the past through the erroneous identity that was never true. As you set them free, you set yourself free, because you want it for them, and that becomes the love of your heart that blooms and is freed from the fears of the past. I don't know who I am. I don't know what anything is for. I don't know how to look at this situation. I don't know what anything means. But I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to meet the divine and bring the divine truth of love to every beloved. Because we don't have to act crazy anymore. Crazy is crazy. Truly crazy. Not medically crazy, but spiritually crazy. And it isn't. You don't have to act crazy anymore. And God will lead out of crazy. Those are the words that you have waited to hear for lifetime after lifetime. And now it's yours. You don't have to act crazy anymore. Crazy being the key word of a false identity. The false identity.